Starting off with the NFC. Game of the weekend, in my opinion. The Rams head to Detroit. Matthew Stafford heads back to Detroit in his first return to Michigan since his departure. Plays against the Lions, led up by Jared Goff. And of course, we know the storyline behind the Rams and Jared Goff. Sean McVay basically just said, hey, you're not good enough to play quarterback in my system. Good luck elsewhere. So, Detroit, higher seed in this instance, playing against the Rams. The Rams come in at plus 3.5 road underdogs as we head into this game. It's the line is going down a little bit, kind of in favor towards the Rams. I wouldn't be surprised if we see Rams plus 3 here soon. This is one of the higher projected point total games, sitting at 51.5. And my goodness, this is supposed to be a shootout, but there are reasons to believe that it may not be, but I hope it is. We'll see if it is. Before I get into any of the numbers and the matchups, Brendan, what's your gut feel about this game? How do you feel about these two quarterbacks going head to head against their former teams? And who do you think is going to win?
This is a movie. It's so good. Mm-hmm. I saw a tweet about this potential matchup a couple weeks ago, and I'm like, it's got to be. And the script writers, they're in on it. They need it. This is the type of viewing that they need from a playoff game here, and I am just so excited to watch this game. Oh,
yeah. So, okay. Before I give your take here, before you get your pick, actually, let me give some stuff real quick. Both the Rams and the Lions, they finished in the season as top 10 offenses by total yards, EPA per play, and success rate. That's why this game is totaled so high. Statistically speaking, we have 2 top 10 offenses heading into here. When Stafford has a healthy Kyren Williams, Cooper Kupp, and Puka Nacua in the lineup, in those 8 games, they're 6-2 and average more than 26 points and nearly 400 yards per game. So this will be the 9th game of the season where all 4 of those guys are in the lineup together. Now, flip it over to the Lions. The Lions have faced a little bit of downward momentum. They started off the season really hot. They've certainly still had good games here and there over the past few games. But after their bye week in the second half of the season, the Lions defense was 26th in EPA per play and allowed an average of 25.6 points per game. So we have a trending upward offense versus a trending downward defense. However, I will say Detroit's defense did step back up in the last few games. Hutchinson had a solid game last week, so we've seen him tune it up a little bit, ready to go, and I'm sure they'll show up ready to go too. But just wanted to point that out, how if you are somebody who looks into the trend of how teams are playing heading into this game, you have to note that the Rams offense is trending upward and the Detroit Lions defense is trending downward. Now, that's not to say that I think the Detroit Lions are going to lose, but I wanted to point that out. I thought that was interesting. We look at some actionable stats too. Outside of that, this is really interesting in its own right, because I think this is what leads to a shootout here. Yards per completion versus yards per completion allowed. Detroit is second to last in the league in yards per completion allowed, but 9th in the league on the offensive side of the ball. The Rams, 27th in the league in yards per completion allowed, and they are 3rd in the league on the offensive side of the ball in yards per completion. So it might be a heyday in the passing game. So
I've got a lot to say. I'm sorry.
Hey, let me hear it.
I got a lot to say, man. First of all, I'm going to murder Dan Campbell. He hurt Portman. They already clinched. They didn't need it. And he's down.
Yep.
He's down. And I'm so mad. Anyway. They can't replace him with James Mitchell. Brock Wright's hurt, I think. James Mitchell is just a guy. He's a jag in there. Like, you cannot replace Portman. And it's saying that he might play, but
I don't believe it.
There's no way, dude. There's no way he plays 7 days after that. But anyway, I think that this is going to be an absolutely incredible game, and I think it comes down to coaching. And McVay is such a dog, and I think that they're going to get it done. I think Stafford is going to go back to Detroit, and upset them. This is the best
Yeah.
season they've had in a long time. And Matthew Stafford, their chosen king, is going to come end it for them.
Yeah. Oh gosh, dude.
What a story, man. What a story.
Fitting. I think it's absolutely fitting.
I just Stafford's a better quarterback. I mean, he's older and he's kind of in his down year, but if anybody sees a video of Stafford throwing out his shoulder and then literally like screaming in pain, untimed down, going out there and it was a throwing shoulder, and he still throws
made for the moment.
I mean, that was amazing. He is made for the moment.
He's made for the moment.
Matthew Stafford is such a dog, and they've got a great supporting cast. And whether it's a shootout, whether it's not, I think they cover for sure. But I'm going to go with the Rams winning this game.
Yeah, so for me, I took the Rams at plus 3.5, and I'm not going to sit here and I'm not going to take anything sports betting wise where the Rams went outright, but I did take them plus 3.5 in a game where it's going to be a battle of the wits on the offensive side of the ball. I'm going to ride with McVay. I almost have to. And so I think that Detroit has the nod on the defensive side of the ball, but I think Rams have the advantage in a game where if it push comes to shove and it all comes down to the X's and O's and the playmakers on the offensive side of the ball, I'm taking Rams and I'm taking McVay. The thing that gets me, and it's such a little thing to take into such consideration, but it's the home version of Jared Goff compared to the away version. And the Lions are at home in the Dome, and we all know how Jared Goff plays at home in the Dome. So that's the only thing that concerns me. And for the roster that the Rams have on the defensive side of the ball, they have overachieved this year. They are sitting at 22nd overall offensive EPA allowed on the defensive side of the ball. If you showed me their roster at the beginning of the season, I would have picked them to been like 28th to 30th, give or take. But they're definitely overachieving. It's still not great, but overachieving nonetheless. On the offensive side of the ball, they're both top 10 teams in terms of EPA per play. So in a battle of the wits, I like the Rams to keep it close here. I took them to cover 3.5. I think I would be shocked at this game if either team won by greater than 2 possessions. I think it's going to be a one possession game, closing in at the end, some way or another. And some of the betting splits are kind of interesting because a lot of the public is kind of heavy on the Rams. 73% of the tickets are on the Rams, only 27% on the Lions. But I'm not going to really take that with anything now. I just, again, I like the matchup. I like the Rams coming in here. I think the Dome benefits both teams, not just the Lions, especially Matt Stafford and Sean McVay.
It benefits points is what it does.
Cooper Kupp is back healthy. Puka Nacua is playing elite football. He just broke rookie records at the wide receiver position, and Kyren Williams is healthy, one of the best running backs in the league. I will say the Lions finished first overall in rushing DVOA allowed. And Kyren Williams going against this defense is quite the entertaining matchup because there's a chance that the Lions defense can stymie Kyren Williams and potentially force the Rams to air it out. But the thing is even if that's the case, I fully trust the Rams passing game to get it done. They did lose Brian Branch. I'm not sure on his status, but he did go out of the game last week against the Vikings. Mm-hmm. So if they're without their top rookie cornerback, man, it's going to be tough to face two of the best receivers in the league.
They did just get C.J. Gardner-Johnson back last week.
True.
But still, Brian Branch has been playing amazing. So I look at great game. Got to be the game of the week. Got to be the game of the week.
And so I'm on the Rams cover, not necessarily on them to win. I think
in the dub.
If I was forced to pick a winner outright, I think that Detroit would win on a last minute field goal, but I would be not shocked one bit if the Rams win outright in this game in the return of Matthew Stafford. So this game is going to be awesome. Should be an offensive bout. I would not be surprised though if the total goes under. Just based off of the nature of this game and how both teams are going to really try to establish the run in the first half. Of course, Dan Campbell loves the 1-2 punch he has in David Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs. And of course, Sean McVay loves Kyron Williams. So I can see this being more of a ground and pound. And then if there is a lack of success in the run game, they'll immediately switch over to the passing game, try and go up tempo. And then that's where we'll see some points. So the model has this Detroit -2. So that's why I'm on the Rams to cover, but not necessarily on them to win. They think the Lions win in a close one. It actually has a score of 24-22. So it thinks it's totaled more so at a 46-point total, a full, 6 points less than the 51.5. So that's where I'm kind of getting this under vibe, but it's going to be a fun one nonetheless. I expect, even if there's not a vast amount of points on the scoreboard, I think we'll see some truly amazing offensive play on both sides of the ball. So model Detroit -2 takes the under as well. Not really confident in the under one, but it thinks this game is going to be a close one, and I certainly think it will be too. As we have it on the first one on the board, it's the most exciting game of the week, the biggest storylines. I expect nothing less out of this game other than sheer fireworks.
Yeah, Brendan has Rams ML.
Rams ML. Brendan has Rams ML. So track him, baby.
I do.
Track him.
I'll be tracking him.
Hey, you can sprinkle and have a little fun. All right. Hey, sticking in the NFC again. We got 2 more games in the NFC, and then we're going to flip over to the AFC. Cowboys versus Packers. Packers are currently sitting +7.5. Road underdogs. The point total sitting at 50.5 as well. They go to Dallas and Jerry World and play a team that is 9-day difference at home. So it's a tough draw for the Packers as they go in and play the Cowboys, who are literally a separate team on the road versus at home. Dallas averages 37.5 points per game at home, which is nearly 6 points better than the next closest team. Dak's yards per attempt was almost 2 yards higher than in the 9 road starts that he had. Although they finished 17th this season in yards allowed per game, advanced metrics for Green Bay are far worse on the defensive side of the ball, and they rated as a bottom 5 unit in DVOA and success rate. So, again, tough draw for the Packers. Jordan Love, he is ascending. These rookies and young talent, skill position players on the offensive side of the ball, they are also ascending. It's going to be an awesome next few years for the Green Bay Packers, but I'm not so confident that they're going to have a happy ending here in the playoffs. Brendan, this game, you got the 7 in the hook for the Packers. Cowboys are at home where they're a 9-day difference. Dak's playing amazing football. Mike McCarthy playing against his old team and the Packers. Another juicy storyline. It doesn't get any better than this. So we're looking at a revenge game for Mike McCarthy. How do you feel about this line? Who do you think is going to win outright? What do you think the vibes are going to be for this game? And kind of what do you expect from some of the gameplay here?
It's not close. It's not close at all.
Period.
Period. It's not close. I think.
Yeah.
I don't think that the Packers have been playing really well, and they're really excelled at the end of the year to get into the playoffs. But the run stops here because Dallas overmatches them in every category. And CD will have 200 yards. Yeah, you just can't. Or they will have Jair back, but yeah, I don't think you're gonna stop them boys.
Yeah,
until the next round, but not this round.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, dude, and thinking of it so looking in comparison to the rest of the defenses, the Packers are at the bottom of the list, especially in terms of EPA per dropback. They are the bottom of the list there. They run 40% of their plays in cover 3. And if you're an X's and O's guys and you keep up with that stuff in the football, then Dak shreds zone coverage, especially cover 3. And he's got the receiving talent to do it. He loves the seam ball to his tight end in cover 3. So I think that with the structure of this defense, and I expect Green Bay to make adjustments as any well-coached team would do. So take what I'm saying with a grain of salt here, but for a team that predominantly runs zone coverage, I expect Dak to have his way, especially if they have a hard time pressuring Dak. So, man, like I thought 7 in the hook at the initial look was a little too much for a playoff game, especially. But as I thought about the narrative more of Mike McCarthy facing his old team, as I thought about the Cowboys being at home in comparison to being on the road, and as I dug into some of the numbers a little bit, it's hard for me to get on the train of the Packers keeping this close, let alone covering. The projections actually have Dallas 9.5 here at home in a 27-17 game, which that was a bit surprising in its own right. Again, the model doesn't take in vibes. Brendan says that all the time, and it brings a good point. Playoff games have different vibes, so take the model for what it is, but strictly from the statistical analyses, the model likes this game to be more so in Dallas's favor. I just think it's the better team overall on the offensive and defensive side of the ball. I mean, if we look at some of the numbers, we see that pretty evident. Dallas is 4th overall in offensive EPA per allowed. Green Bay is 24th. Offensive EPA, Dallas is 3rd. Packers are 7th. So Packers have a competent offense that can kind of keep this close, but it's really their defense that really concerns me. And the contrary is they don't even really have a good rushing defense either. They're 28th in rushing yards allowed, 21st in yards per carry allowed. And so not only will Dallas have their way in the passing game, but they will have their way in the running game if needed be. So it's going to be a steep task for the Packers to go in here and beat the Cowboys outright. The key to them doing so is scoring first, getting on top early, forcing the Cowboys to play at their tempo, and then just pounding the rock and then taking deep shots with Jordan Love. I think Jordan Love, he is actually one of the more explosive passers in the league. His success rate is not that high, but his explosive play rate is amongst top 10 in the league. So if he can generate explosive plays, get up early, and then rely on the running game, that's the Packers' key to victory here. But there's more scenarios in which the Cowboys win this game and potentially run away with it than which the Packers do, which is why I'm on the Cowboys to win outright.
Yeah, everything points towards the Cowboys in this. They're better on all sides of the ball, especially on the defense, offense. Mm-hmm. They're playing at home, and I mean, this is one of the better teams that Dallas has had, probably statistically, but just like the eye test in a while. And they've got a real shot. Skill-wise, there's a huge difference, I just feel like, on between the teams. But skill-wise, Dallas has a real shot to really go deep in this playoffs. So I think they'll choke like they always do, but not this round.
Yeah, and I will say, so surprisingly, the public is on the Packers. 56% of the bets
That's
on the Packers.
insane.
87% of the money is on the Packers to cover the 7.5. So we're actually in the minority here, thinking that Dallas can cover. I will say, for the Packers, one thing that they have going their way, and another reason they can win this game, a battle of the X's and O's and coaching. I personally would rather have LaFleur calling my games than Mike McCarthy. Nothing against Mike McCarthy, but I think he is rather incompetent at times. And, there was a reason that Green Bay parted ways with him. If you want to go back and dig up that hole, go listen to Aaron Rodgers and how he talked about how Mike McCarthy ran the offense in his latter years. So I would rather have LaFleur calling the plays, especially on the offensive side of the ball. I trust him in the coaching department more so than I trust Mike McCarthy. So as a Packers fan, if you're watching this, you can rest easy knowing that your coaching is probably going to be better, or you have a chance because your coaching, especially your offensive-minded coach, is better than the guy on the other sideline. So that's
we don't have any Packers fans watching this right now.
Hopefully. Hey, if you're a Packers fan, chime in. Let us know. Speaking of, guys, if you're watching on YouTube, we appreciate it. Make sure to like and subscribe, and then drop your favorite picks for Wildcard Weekend. We love scanning that crowd. If you're a Packers fan, drop it in the comments. If you're a Cowboys fan, drop it in the comments. Drop your score predictions, your picks for the weekend, who you're going to be rooting for, who you're not going to be rooting for. We love seeing that. We have a field day going through the comments. It's awesome. So make sure to do that. Like, subscribe, drop your favorite picks. On to the next. Eagles go to Tampa Bay, surprisingly, and play the Baker-led Bucs. Eagles have been one of the more polarizing stories as we head into the postseason. They went 1-5 their last 6 games. It seems like there's been a total breakdown of this team, especially in the locker room. They've been dealing with injuries. Devontae Smith was out last game. A.J. Brown got hurt with a knee injury. He's expected to be fine, but I don't know how much I'm believing that. It looks pretty bad. We'll see come Sunday. And Jalen Hurts just doesn't look himself. So I'm very curious to see which version of the Eagles that we get heading into this game. There's certainly a lot going on mentally for this team. We'll see. I'm curious to hear your thoughts on it too. But we talk about the Bucs as well. Just totally shocked how they got here. I can't believe that this division actually has a team that's made it to the playoffs. I mean, it's kind of gross, but the Bucs actually have a fighting chance.
They're kind of raw.
Win this game. Bucs are 2.5-point home underdogs as we enter the wild card weekend. The point total is sitting right around 44. So Baker and the Bucs, they just beat the Panthers last week 9-0 in a really, really ugly game. The offense couldn't get anything going. Not sure why, but I will say this: one thing you can do on the Eagles is generate some offense. Passing yards allowed per game, Philadelphia is 28th, but on the contrary, it also could be a potential get right spot for the Eagles. Bucs are 30th in passing yards per game allowed. Both are top 10 teams in terms of rushing yards allowed. So the rushing game might have a little bit tougher time finding some success. But, you look at some of Rachaad White's numbers. He's not a good rusher. He's more so used and utilized best in the passing game. And the Eagles run game is predominantly the tush push. DeAndre Swift was out last game. He would be a immense help to this team if he were to come back healthy this week. He adds a ton of value in the rushing game. He's been one of the best rushers in the league, in the NFC, in my opinion. So eyes on that as we head into Sunday. He could definitely be a game changer as well. So I'll save some more of the stats and stuff just to kind of get a vibe check from you as well. This team and the momentum that they've lost heading into the postseason compared to the Bucs and some of the momentum that they've gained. The Bucs being at home, a home underdog, as the Eagles come into this game struggling. Do you think they can win outright against a team that was just in the Super Bowl last year, a team that just started the season 10-1? Do you think they can pull off the improbable?
It's really amazing what has happened to the Eagles, and it's really unfortunate because they were in the same division as Dallas, so you knew one of them would end up being the 5 seed. But I mean, the Eagles deserve to be the 5 seed. They play like shit for the last 5 weeks. Yeah. And there's locker room problems, there's injury problems. Like, they already had the 5th seed locked up, right? And they, Hurts break his finger or something. I don't remember exactly what he did.
Dislocated it, and it was weird.
He dislocated his finger. A.J. Brown got hurt. Even if he plays, I was saying this last night in the national championship game when Washington, his running back, was playing. He was obviously really injured. If you've ever tried to do anything on an injury, you can't, let alone play football. It's if they're going to trot him out there, he's going to be extremely limited. And I do think that you can throw on both these defenses, and I think there's going to be a lot of points scored.
Mm-hmm.
But I also think that the Eagles are just in a downward spiral, and the Bucs are going to win. I do think they can win.
That's interesting that you bring that up because here's what I want to note out. The model has Philadelphia -1. Philadelphia winning, but by 1 point, right around 24-23. It also thinks there's going to be a little more points scored than what Vegas expects. So that's interesting that you said that there's going to be points scored. The passing games, the defensive passing games on both sides of the ball open up this huge hole and opportunity for each team to capitalize. So if the Bucs offensive line can hold up against this Eagles defensive front, they can absolutely exploit the secondary and have a field day. You know, they have They have two of the best receivers in the game when, push comes to shove.
The Bucs should not run the ball one single time.
Honestly,
why would you? Why would you? Just like Michigan should have ran the ball every single time last night. Like, they couldn't stop it, and they won't be able to run at all.
Yeah.
I do not think they will. I don't think the Eagles are going to either, really. So, give me 45 dropbacks from each quarterback, please. Please.
Yeah. I like the over. I'm normally not an over-under guy. I just don't find as much success in that as I do with just team totals and stuff like that. But yeah, I think there's an absolutely more ways in which this game hits the over than it does the under. Yep. And I think for the Eagles, my concern is if they don't have Devontae Smith or AJ Brown out there, then it's going to be really Dallas Goedert, really old Julio Jones, Olamide Zaccheaus. And so if they don't have one of their two 1A, 1B guys trying out a receiver, they're going to have a hard time putting up points. But if they do, then I expect them to also shred the Bucs secondary, and I think we're going to have a shootout. So Philadelphia -1 from the model, it's seemingly right because it also takes in momentum as well. So it sees the downward spiral that Philly has had from the start of the season up until now. It also takes into account some of this. Philly, offensive EPA allowed, 29th overall in the league, Bucs 18th overall in the league. So the Bucs have a better performing defense in terms of EPA. Offensive EPA, Philly 8th, Bucs 14th. So all signs are pointing to the offense, as much as both have looked kind of grotesque as of late. So give me points, man. And I think that the Bucs can cover and even win outright themselves. I'm going to oppose you. I think Philly does pull this one out. I think one of the top dogs on the wide receiving core ends up playing, and that's their avenue to winning this game. But I think the Bucs keep it close, 100%. 100%. So,
do you think they still win if only one of them plays?
Yes.
Dude, if you give me healthy Mike Evans and healthy Godwin and healthy Baker and healthy Rashad White versus a hurts. That's funny. Not super healthy DeAndre Swift, and then number 1 and number 2 receiver that are hurt. Like, what? Just give me the Bucs, okay? Just please.
Yeah. I mean, it's fair, and I think what it really boils down to is I like the Eagles' trenches a lot better in this game, more so than I do the Bucs' offensive and defensive line. I think that the Eagles' defensive line has game-changing potential when they turn it on. I think they can flip the script on its head at any given moment. And then, of course, the Eagles' offensive line, they've been banged up, but led by Jason Kelce, they're one of the better units in the league. So, it very well could go in favor of the Eagles if this offensive line decides to toss around some of the Bucs' defensive line. So that's really kind of what it boils down to for me. All things considered. So I think the Eagles can turn it around and figure it out in the locker room and come out here and beat the Bucs in a close one. It's going to be fun though. And it is at the Bucs. So good for the Bucs. Good for the Bucs.